Okay. So first, I went through what y'all did. Great job. That's exactly what I was looking for. How did that activity feel? Give me some feedback. What did you think? You liked it? What did you like about it?
Article and then put them together.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts? Okay. So who wants to give me a little bit about this slide 4? Well, actually, no, let's go back to, let's just go from the beginning here. What did you pull out of the first article? Somebody give me a share out. You have all the notes in front of you. You just have to read them. Give me your thoughts. Give me what you pulled out the article.
So basically, police use profiling to determine, like, just by looking at someone, if they're like statistically more likely to have committed a crime or had done something wrong. And a lot of the time it turns into racial profiling because race is a big factor in, that police think is a big factor in determining if someone commits a crime or not. And then the article is talking about how that's turned into profiling based on hip hop culture, which is how people dress and how they talk and how they walk and stuff, which is also very much racial profiling because that fits a lot of people of color specific.
Very good. Anything else y'all want to add? Okay. Give me a new voice for the second article. Give me something major you pulled out of it.
The big thing that I saw was how many of the Black mothers, they come from like poor communities and not coming from much. So with that, they were not like able to afford like prenatal care or be able to go out and buy something that they can find out for themselves. So they would be forced to go out into the office to the doctors, which is where they would then be tested for their baby, be tested, and then their drugs would be caught in the system, and then they would get in trouble or get caught with the drugs, and then they would have criminal charges, and then it would just be like a downward spiral for them.
Very good. Very, very good. Okay. Anything that anyone wants to add to that?
So kind of like so was kind of right about the like pregnant family, how we're kind of supposed to be like it's like how with the immigration agency, the government is kind of separating the families from there, and it's taking away from each other, bringing them and live with the drug and pregnancy one is kind of the same thing. A little bit on past drugs in the system, they want to know.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. You're jumping ahead already. That's good. Okay. Anything anyone wants to add that you pulled out of the second article? Excellent connection. Okay. Give me something from the third article. Let's get a new voice. What did you find that was important in that third article? Hey, Amber, welcome in. Give me something. New voice. What did you pull out of that third article?
Read that white students would describe African American women as black, as loud black girls. And
You said
aggressive.
and aggressive. Okay. Okay. Good. Who wants to add to that? Where did that stereotype come from of being loud and aggressive?
They were saying how it came from slaves, that it's been around as long as slavery because Black women were trying to be everything that the white women were not. So like during that period, white women were supposed to be, or they were, just supposed to sit there and be quiet and look pretty and do what their husband says. So Black women, I guess, came out and they were, came out of slavery and they were like, okay, so we're not going to be quiet. We're not going to just let our husbands tell us what to do. And that started the, it's not so much of being aggressive and rude, just like voicing their own opinions and speaking up for themselves. And then
Yes.
that's passed down to people like Rosa Parks and Harriet Tubman, stuff where they're speaking out for themselves in a way that white women didn't really do historically.
Yeah.
And then now that's just seen as having too much opinion or being too aggressive.
Right. Right. It's the intersection of race and gender, right? It's racialized gender. It's up until recently, we haven't really talked about Black girls growing up into being Black women, right? Because socially, we had other things filling that space. Baby mamas. That's what the papers are doing. Go ahead.
From the first article, the minority district, it has been shown that in general, Blacks and Latinos are stereotyped as crime prone. That's what suspects commit officers should be more aggressive.
Yes. Yes. Right. That's what you're doing in the papers. Right. Each and every one of you has something to add. It may not be like a personal story. It doesn't have to be trauma porn, right? It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be something that's gonna like really impact you negatively, right? But start to think about where else are we seeing these things, right? Where else can we take what we're learning here in the classroom to understand what's going on around us, right? When we can better understand what's going on around us and we have all of this foundation to work with, we can dismantle it better, right? It's very difficult to dismantle systems that we don't fully understand or that we only understand in compartmentalized ways, right? Your lives are theory, and we just proved that, right? When you're watching things like Immigration Nation and you're feeling the things that you're feeling around it, right? It's because that's your life you're watching in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether it's you directly or it's your neighbor, that's your life you're watching, right? When you're reading these articles are about our lives, right? So we have to start putting all of this together, right? So that's what I really want y'all to start thinking about in the papers. So it doesn't have to be a personal story, right? But where else can you use this information? What can you use this information to understand and to break down? Does that make sense? All right, cool. We got about 5 more minutes. Who wants to add something? Go ahead.
I wanted to say that my perspective and what I've seen is how the immigrant status and events happening usually revolve around Latinos at this time. not just like everyone focuses on the social media and posts. I didn't realize that it's also a major problem for other people. And I believe this should be talked about more so other people can become aware that it's not okay. Or trying to fix papers for themselves or family members. Like for example, in episode 2, there was a woman, I forgot where she was from. She was trying to fix papers for children so that they can come from where they're born. And so they can come from
Episode
where they're
5, the black woman?
Yeah.
Yes.
She was trying to like fix papers. I did not see it. And I feel like me myself, it gave me a different perspective of the word because like my dad, my mom had a physical with that. So I feel like that's just like maybe what I did.
Yes, right. We've absolutely been conditioned as a society to think of immigrant in a very specific way. One of the early things that I did in my higher education when I was doing my first master's, I did an internship at the what is it called? I don't even know. Center for, it was a policy center for Black LGBT folks. It's in DC. I have the white paper in my drive. I'll share it with y'all later. But essentially, I wrote a white paper on immigration being a Black issue as well, right? And talking about that specific intersection because it is important, right? When we compartmentalize an issue that is massive and that impacts more people than just the ones that we focus on, right? Well, we take it on as just that singular issue. The same way that here on campus, right? We have the Toro Dreamer Success Center, right? But it's really been marketed as like the Latino Center, right? Like that's been the space where everybody says like the Hispanic heritage, everybody goes there, right? Well, they're not the only immigrants, right? Absolutely. But when you find community in an issue like that, right, you gain power, you gain numbers, you gain, right? And so we think about immigrant and then we also think about criminal, right? We think about Trump and all the language that he was using, right? Rapists, all of that, right? Threats to the border, right? Like we have one border. Isn't there like two at least, right? One on the bottom and one, they're not worried about the people oh, okay. Right? We know that there's been mass trends of folks, women from Russia coming to the United States to have their children here, right? So what's the difference? The racialization is the difference, right? The compartmentalization is absolutely different. So first, give me some feedback. How did that work out for y'all? What was that process like for you? It was easier? Okay. What made it easier? Okay. More of a chance to organize your thoughts, like in a specific space instead of just verbally. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Is that a useful activity? Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
Okay. So we'll keep that because I feel like that will help to facilitate some better dialogue too. But I would like for y'all to try to come having pre-read at least a little bit, right? So that way we don't have to spend as much time because I want to see if we can foster more of your thoughts in a conversation. Does that make sense? All right. So we'll test it out for this last, we'll have about 10 minutes when we get to that part. But as always, you're still leading this dialogue, right? So let's just go through the first couple of articles first. So give me something that you pulled out of policing in a minority district. What was something important from there? Okay, so that folks are being targeted because they are considered a minority. Okay, what does that targeting look like? Kicking them out of, right, kicking them out of areas where they're quote unquote not supposed to be, whether or not you live there, right? That's not even taken into consideration as a factor. The factor is you look like you belong to a certain group, or you sound like you look like, you sound like you belong to a certain group, and therefore we know that you're an outsider, right? That forever foreigner idea, right?
Mm.
That's enacted in that way. Okay. Give me something else. What else did you pull out of that? One more key idea. Y'all got them in front of you. Didn't you write it down? What did y'all write? Tell me what you wrote. What's your points? Say that one more time. Okay. Yeah. So like y'all ever had an interaction, or you seen or you heard about like a family member having an interaction with the police, right? And it escalates just because like there's no actual reason for them to really be fucking with them in the first place, right? But they find something stupid, right? And then they escalate the situation, right? That's where that discrepancy is coming in, right? So that's what your peers was pointing out. So because it's not technically illegal to do that, right? It's not technically illegal to target folks, right? Because it's considered part of the job, if anything, right? There's nothing on the books saying that you can't police in that way. So situations become exacerbated based off of power and privilege instead of based off of what is right and wrong in the given situations, right? That idea of the authority figure, right? The police are the authority figure. And as the authority figure, right, all the subjects of that authority, right, are just there for the whim of the authority, right? They're there to feed the ego, they're there to kind of reassert their positionality, right? And so that's why we see so many incidences where small things or things that need not escalate into massive police interactions often do within our communities, right? So there's a legal gray area there. And so that legal gray area is what critical race theory is pointing at, right? Does that make sense? Okay. All right, good. Let's go to the second article. What did you pull out of that?
That the government tends to target the poor and the black women more because I just had the article, but I don't get signal, so I can't get it. But it's they have one or two options with government. It's either to help the women for the healthcare of pregnancy, or to like prosecute them, or something like prosecute them. And then later on in the article, they tend to do that more because it's easier, and since they're poor, they can't do anything about it. and they complain how they can't get the same treatment of middle class white women. Like, why can't they get that type of pregnancy health care? And that was the whole argument.
So Black women are being targeted in the medical industry with a crossover with the criminal justice system, right? In that there's an option to either help these women or not. And most of the time it's cheaper to just not, right? Not only that, we have to think about what the prison industrial complex does. It's a business, right? And so how do we fuel that business? We have to find people to continue to put into it, right? And so this becomes one of the ways that that happens for Black women, especially Black women who decide to have children, right? And fetishizing the women. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Okay. All right, it took a little bit longer than I thought, but that's okay. Give me your crossovers. Put these in conversation with what you watched in Immigration Nation. Okay. 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 Very good, right? So there's a theme of abuse of power. There's a theme of power and control and dominance, right? That has to take place in order for these groups to continue to exist as the groups that they've been discussed as, right? Black women being loud, Asian men being soft and quiet, right? Black mothers being drug addicts, right? Or as Kanye said, right? The most dangerous place for a Black person to be, right? That's absolutely a trend. And then you get to see it in action while you're watching Immigration Nation. Okay, good. Give me another one. One more, because it's 45.
How, like you said, how it's an abuse of power, and the officers in the show, immigration, they always say, I don't want to, this is my job, their job, like, that's their power, that they have to take you away. But one of them, I like the guy, they were looking for a specific person that all the what do you call it, like
The ICE agent? Uh-huh.
that they targeted one guy, and he said, if I'm looking for someone and I come across an immigrant, I'm gonna like let them be. If they're paying their bills, they don't have a problem with me. Then why should I kick them out of the country? No, they're doing the right thing. So it's like, is it wrong? Maybe, but it's fine. But they're not doing anything wrong.
Absolutely, right? So choices are always at play there. Choices are always at play. We always have a choice to do the right thing.